The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and FreedomSlips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, FreedomSlips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
And welcome to The Divine Truth on Revolution Radio with my co-hosts this evening, Nyssa and Sarah. Are you guys there?
Hi, here. Hi.
Hi.
And my guest this evening is Thomas Sheridan. Hi, Thomas. How are you?
Hi, Taj. Hi, guys. Nice to be here.
Now, just before we get into the show, I just want to make a little announcement. I want to announce a conference that I'm hosting in Aldermaston in the UK, AwakeOn, where we have a few speakers, including two people who are on the show right now. Sarah and Thomas are both going to be speaking. The event is on Saturday, the 15th of July in Aldermaston, and the speakers include Sarah and Thomas, who I've already mentioned, and we also have Tony Topping, Maria Wheatley, Kieran Lee Perrin, and Ben Emlyn Jones. So if you are interested in attending the event, just go to awakecon.com. That's awakecon.com to buy tickets. So let's just go straight into the show now. Thomas, there's quite a few topics we can talk about on the show with you tonight, but I wanted to open up with talking a little bit about black magic. Now, there's an area that interests me in particular is the music industry. And how black magic, spells, etc. are used in the music industry. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and how that works?
Yeah, sure. Like a lot of people think, that black magic or pathological magic or dark magic or whatever you want to call it, parasitic magic or parasitic sorcery, that the whole thing is based on some kind of, not necessarily some kind of like nefarious mind control, way of corrupting human beings. But ultimately, when you're dealing with that business, it's really about robbing people of their money. That's what it really comes down to. It's really, when you strip sort of like these ideas down to their most crass, their most basic, it's things like robbing people of their life energy, their money, their sexuality, their sense of self, their dignity, that kind of thing. And a lot of that goes on in the music industry. Now, I was actually in the music industry back when I was quite young, living in New York, and I saw firsthand, especially when we were the band that I was in at the time, were trying to get signed. And I had some very strange experiences with people who were basically telling me, do this, do that, change your look, change your image, and we'll get you famous and this kind of thing. And it's so toxic, it's hard to explain. But when it's toxic in the sense that like you're feeling like it's not true to me, it's not true to who I am as a person, it's not what I want to do, I'm not going to exploit myself for this reason. But at the same time too, they do things like throw huge amounts of money at you. They are, the promise of this, the promise of, they play this kind of spellbinding idea that, it's okay to sell your soul, because ultimately what you will reap from this will be much more beneficial and, in a greater level than what you're actually giving away. And the reality is, as you can see from all these people who've died young, 27 Club and all this kind of thing, and all the young people who've, committed suicide or died of drug abuse in the music industry, it's not true at all. It's not. It's like you will literally pay the price, because when you sacrifice your life energy, your soul energy into an idea as crass as like betraying your creativity, which is really your soul anyways, for money, you're screwed, because you're actually you're stealing your own life essence away. And it's not just the music business. Like, I do look at the music business and I see people like Miley Cyrus, and I feel really sad for that girl, and everyone makes fun of her. But I know she came from like a family where her father was famous and she never had a problem or anything like that. But when I see her, I feel really, it's not right what's being done to this girl. She can sing. She doesn't seem like a bad person. She actually has a kind of kind face. And, it's horrible, actually.
Mm. Thomas, I wanted to ask you, like, if someone like Miley Cyrus's parents made a deal, would it pass on down to their children, kind of thing? Is that why she is the way she is?
Yeah, it's like the mafia. It's kind of that kind of thing. Say you make a deal with the mafia, like a Sicilian mafia. You say, like, give me $1 million or €1 million, whatever. I want to start a business. Well, if you don't pay that back in your lifetime, whatever the interest is, Junior picks up the tab, and that's exactly the same thing. It's like, if you can't pay this off in your lifetime, it wouldn't be surprised me if Billy Ray Cyrus, a rather limited person talent-wise, had a big hit in the 80s with a stupid song, was approached in this kind of sense, and they said to him, well, we make a big star, and you got to pay it all back. And maybe his career didn't pay it back. It's kind of scary, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
That's brilliant. This is something that I have been trying to focus on and explain it to people, because it happens even in bloodline, I think, from the magic that they use. It's passed down generations. I know because of the fact that I'm bloodline, and at a very young age I encountered certain entities, dark entities and stuff like that. There's a movie called Beautiful Creatures that explains this. The little girl, she's born and it's passed down to her, quote, the curse. Also with Miley Cyrus, you are right on that. She does seem very kind. It doesn't seem like she's a bad person. I've had dreams where I would talk to her soul, and she would say that she was entrapped, and she was very, very sad about it and very unhappy. So I looked into it. She had wrote some songs when she was younger about love, and about trying to be a very good person. And I thought, she's not evil, at all. And I feel some affinity to her. I feel some sort of compassion for her, no matter what people say about her, because you can tell she's around people who don't love her. She's around people that exploit her, and you can tell that happens since a child.
Yeah, she's like a farm animal. That's really like she's like a battery hen or an animal in a factory farming. That's how they're treated, these people. And
I feel like the same. Go ahead.
No, sorry. It's just that's when you've reduced the human being to that level and dehumanize him that level, it doesn't even matter if that, in the spiritual or anything consequences of it. You've almost fated them in a way. You've almost self-hexed them. And this kind of idea, there's some kind of collateral that has to be, the cost has to be collected at some future point. And that's, to me, like, I wouldn't want to be in that position for all that fame and all that money. But you can see it. You can see how stupid her shows are getting. It's all, like, I've seen some recent photographs of her last tours and stuff, and it's like really bizarre. They're like, they're like Bosch paintings from like the Middle Ages of like hell and stuff. They're really dark. And what you're witnessing is that girl's nervous breakdown. She doesn't have the language or the ability to express it directly, but the whole thing is that the soul always tells the truth in the end. It's that kind of thing. And we're seeing the soul of the music industry, not the soul of her, being exposed in these like awful stage shows and videos and so on.
I feel like the same thing happened to Britney Spears. I don't think she started out bad at all. And she looks so depressed and down. It's the sadness in her face, no matter how much plastic surgery she gets done. There's this just deep sadness that's inside of her eyes.
Big time. And you see that in lots of people. Now, you bring up an interesting point there. There's this idea of the star, someone being made the star, the celebrity. A lot of that is rooted in this idea that there used to be And it's I know it sounds weird, but it actually was actually a thing practiced in history. It where in the past, in say in ancient times, kings were often were sacrificed if their rule became corrupted. So if things, if something went wrong in a society, they would sacrifice the royal family. Now, ever since about the early Dark Ages, we're talking about the 5th, 6th century, a thing developed where it was called like faux regicide, where the idea was instead of killing the king or the queen or the prince or whatever when the society failed, they made a fake king, a mock king or a mock queen, and that's where the idea of the star comes from. And they would let them live like the king or queen, enjoy the life of the king or queen, enjoy all the benefits, money, fame. They would even let the fake king sleep with the queen or the concubines in the court for a limited time, and then they would destroy them. They would kill them. And this became the substitute for them. And I absolutely believe that the stars that we have today are substitutes for all the things that's wrong in society. Just like you said with Britney Spears. It's easier to make these people famous and destroy them, and then, give the public their sense of, validation, satisfaction, seeing someone famous being destroyed, than what we used to have years ago. If the society failed, we just, we killed off the royalty, we killed off the kings, whatever. And that's what a lot of that comes from. It's a very dark and very ancient thing. It goes, it's at least 2,000, maybe 1,500 years old. And it's been going on. And it's been, it's been played. We're being played here. We're being played here. We're being told to hate celebrities, like laugh at a celebrity, mock a certain celebrity. Oh, they're all drug addicts. Oh, they're all like losers. Oh, they're all sex freaks. If they die, no one cares. But what they are is the kind of like the public reflection of the dysfunctionality of, say, the royal families and the elites. That's what that is.
They do that in Bloodline too. So when, per se, that if you speak out in your bloodline or you don't go according to the rules, you are set as a sacrifice. And I've noticed this is happening too quite a bit.
Yeah, and they do it with any kind of like children that are born to them who are disabled or something like that, that are not like, they don't fit the perfect model. This is like a huge thing. Oh yeah, this has been going on forever. In fact, the entire Russian family, the Russian royal family, the Romanovs, the whole lot of them are probably wiped out for that reason, because they were kind of failing the kind of the royal kind of idea of perfection, and they screwed up Russia. They lost to the communists. They lost the war, and the entire family, the Romanovs, are probably wiped out for that reason.
If I remember right, they would have multiple children, and the ones that were handicapped or weren't pretty, they would sacrifice all of them until they got one child that was, nice looking and that was functioning okay.
And even like if you look at the British royals, they weren't even nice looking. Did you ever see the Queen's cousin, who's actually been locked up all her life? I think she's dead now. And she's identical to Queen Elizabeth II, facially, the haircut and everything. And she was basically dumped in like a sanatorium in Scotland and left to die because she was considered like, not fit. And if they treat their own kids like this, imagine how they treat us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe that the Queen's cousin was like disabled or something. That's why they sort of like locked her away. And it was like, so people couldn't see her. And
it was something that they used to do if the kid was handicapped or wasn't well. They would just sacrifice that and then pray that they would get a kid that was fitting for what they wanted. It was a common practice. If you read back about it, it's quite common practice.
Yeah, and also the males would have sex with lots of different women. So if the selected female, like the brood mares, what's her name? Diana called herself. If she didn't produce the right children, one of the mistresses, whatever, would one of their babies would be selected to fulfill that role.
Right, that's interesting. Sorry, Sarah, you want to say something?
Yes, I wanted to go back to what you were saying about selling your soul energy for riches and fame. When I was in LA, I encountered this. I encountered a lot of people who were like this. I was sort of, at places where there were people like that, and they didn't have any energy, and it was very, very scary. And I ran into a very interesting case when I was up in LA. There's magic. There's two specific magic shops there, and a lot of celebrities go to these magic shops and have the people who head these magic shops do black magic for them if their fame is going down or whatever else. And what I found out was absolutely horrible. Some of the people that worked there, I knew, somebody who worked there, and this person is now mentally unstable. And I believe it's because they were delving into the same black magic that who they were working for was doing. But they were telling me how all these celebrities go there and get all sorts of black magic done to help up their career.
Well, it's really weird that you said that, because I got a message from one of my friends who's a Hollywood actor this morning, and he'd vanished for a bit and came back and told me today that he was messing around with rituals, and he's okay now and he's fixed up again. But it's like the whole thing is saturated in that. The entire entertainment thing, but Hollywood is really weird that way. Okay, you had like Anton LaVey and the Church of Set. Now that was basically cosplay, role playing, Satanism, but still that's enough to kind of damage you. And all the way, the celebrities all flocked to that. I mean, he was surrounded by celebrities. Even the Manson family. No one ever wants to talk about the fact that the Manson family were really members of the Process Church, and you find these things out in the most strange ways, because when the Manson family they killed Sharon Tate and the LaBianca family in Beverly Hills. Everyone was going like, oh, they were freaks on the outside that entered their way into Hollywood. When you read like Michael Caine, the British actor's biography, when he went to Hollywood back in the 60s, he candidly and openly said that the Manson family were at all the top Hollywood parties. They were deliberately brought in as kind of like entertaining freaks. They were not outsiders. They were insiders within the system. And they were not the Manson family. They were really connected to the Process Church, which is this, bizarre sort of like neo-Nazi occult operation that like runs in London and LA. And it's these people were heavily connected in the actual entertainment scene. And if you look at what the Process Church gets up to, well, I don't know if they still exist. Apparently, they're still in the deep web. You can still find them. They were usually connected with things like serial killers and stuff like that, particularly in upstate New York. And yet these people had access to the top Hollywood stars and also some of the people in the BBC. For instance, in their magazine in England in the 60s, Jimmy Savile wrote an essay on sexuality for them back in the 60s. That's how weird it gets.
It's insane you bring up Michael Caine, because I'm pretty sure Max said that he was good friends with his grandfather. His grandfather was Percy Herbert, which was an actor over there in England. And he was telling me some of the same stuff that you're telling me right now. I do remember too, as a child, my mom was good friends with one of Johnny Holliday's music producers. And he winded up admitting that, and I won't say who, and I'm not saying anything here about Johnny Holiday, but I'm saying that this person would say that they would do blood rituals, and even they had access to hospitals and everything, and they were able to get what they needed for their rituals, and that sometimes even in hospitals they were doing rituals.
Now, isn't that interesting about the hospitals? Because look at the access that Jimmy Savile on this side of the world had to like Leeds General Hospital, getting his hand on corpses and things like this to make jewelry out of their glass eyeballs and everything. And yet no one wants to, that even though that's come out in the open and it's been admitted, everyone wants to just say, oh, he was just a weirdo, he was just a pervert, he was just an oddball. But nobody wants to actually acknowledge the fact that maybe there may have been a ritualistic aspect to this, that Jimmy Savile was, as dark and hard as this is to grasp, was like, violating dead bodies in Leeds General Hospital, removing their glass eyeballs, making rings of them and jewelry of the glass eyeballs, and then going on the BBC's Top of the Pops the following Thursday night and waving these things at the camera as he's holding the microphone. And yet when you actually say to people, do you not think there's actually a kind of a dark magical process going on here? They don't want to hear it. But the absolute thing, it absolutely was.
I think people, especially here in the United States, being in Texas, I'm in Texas here for a little bit. I'm flying around. I'm over here with a lovely aunt of mine. But interestingly enough, here, if you say magic, people are like, oh, that doesn't exist. They can't even fathom the idea that magic would exist, much less dark magic. They put it down to, oh, it's very Christian here. So, that doesn't really exist. Even though they're religious, they can't fathom the fact of it.
That's because they've been raised on Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Harry Potter, and this idea that it's kind cool. And it doesn't exist because it's no more real than Frodo and Sam and the Lord of the Rings. But what they don't understand, that magic is probably one of the most real forces in our society. It is basically the heart of everything from public relations, marketing, advertising, mind control, political spin. It's all, even, of course, entertainment. It's all there. It's just the changing of will in people. But they hear the word magic and they don't believe it. It's like so many people who are Catholics who go to church and the priest brings the spirit of Jesus Christ into the blood and the biscuit, and then you tell those people there's no such thing as magic, and you tell those people about magic and they laugh. And yet every Sunday when they go to Mass, the transubstantiation is a gigantic magical ritual by the priest. They don't know what it is. They're very blind to what's directly in front of their own eyes.
It's
Oh, sorry. I was just going to quickly.
Go ahead, Nyssa.
I was just quickly going to say that logos, the magic of logos. How many women out there truly believe with all their heart that if they buy the right handbag with the right logo on it, their entire life's going to change? That's insane. That's crazy. But that's magic on a very basic level.
Yeah, because that's the thing of the symbol, that all these meanings and all these ideas and all these emotional and psychological and sexual and social ideas are compressed into these shapes, like the McDonald's symbol. You know what that is. Underneath it is horrible burgers and stuff like that. It doesn't matter if you don't like that food. You immediately know what that means. The same with all these labels in fashion. The idea of all these, your personal insecurity, how you look, how you think about yourself, your social status, your financial status, is all compressed into this logo. Is all compressed into this symbol. I mean, it's pure magic. And yet when you do explain to people in these ways, they do, oh yeah, that makes sense. I get it now. But this is a very, very old science that goes on forever. Everything from, one person looks at the swastika and thinks Nazis, another person looks at, a Hindu person looks at it and thinks, the symbol of the sun. It's how and it is programming, how you're programmed to react to that symbol.
Yeah, but you can. Oh, sorry, Sarah. I was just going to quickly say you can create your own sigils, which really work because it programs the subconscious. Sorry, Sarah, go on.
Well, just look. I noticed like Chanel. Even the word Chanel, it's almost if you add an N in there, you got channel. So they're channeling your energy from you. And the top ones of Chanel, I'm sorry to say, but from some of the people that I know and that are close to those people, they're black magicians. It's evident, the way they dress, the way they are. It's quite evident they're black magicians. And then I also noticed something about Prada. There's the word DARPA in it. And I do, from my understanding, and because I do know a lot of military people, I think that the military is using this because they know by channeling energy, they can channel it into certain black ops or stuff like that. It's very interesting. In Prada, you have DARPA. And then here we have something called Sam's Club. It's part of Walmart, which I absolutely hate Walmart. Sam or Samuel is another name for Lucifer. So it's basically Lucifer's club.
And MK bags, like MK Ultra. So these people walk around with MK bags.
What about Hugo Boss? the boss.
Well, they designed the, well, I don't know if I can actually say this. Yeah, but they do.
SS uniforms, yeah. Have you ever seen you can actually buy a book that shows the SS uniforms they designed, and it looks like something off the catwalk. The way that the guys are posing and stuff like this. Hugo Boss, the huge boss. I mean, it's hilarious.
Exactly, yeah, but etymology, you're going back to the Phoenicians and the alphabet distracts from the real symbology. So because the alphabet is like a prison for the mind, because it's all inverted, it's all backwards, the meaning for a lot of words.
Alpha beast, that's what I call it. And what again, this goes back to Egypt and set the lower consciousness, lower bestial, not an evolved person, not an evolved consciousness, but lower bestial consciousness, which is basically about consuming and acting animalistic. So it's very interesting, the word alphabet, alpha beast, because bet, bete in French is beast.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's interesting.
Yes.
What about everyone wearing those baseball caps with "obey" on them a few years ago?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Do you remember when Russell Brand was doing his whole nonsense about 4 or 5 years ago, the revolutionary, and he was outside some Hollywood event with Katy Perry, who was his wife at the time, and he flashes this little sign, "Obey, obey, obey." And it was the logo of that fashion company. I mean, it's just incredible. It's almost like they're mocking people at times, and the people fall for it.
And yeah. Katy Perry, there's something going on right now with her, that there are these nuns that don't want her to buy this place or something. I think it's in LA, if I remember right. And they said that she's a witch, and she said, no, she's not witch. But at the same time, there's pictures of her where she was at, she was in Salem taking pictures with witches.
Let's not get, be too judgmental here. There's nothing wrong. There's lots of witches who are wonderful people. It's not all like nasty stuff. Salem in America. Yes, it's just like anyone else. There's decent people and bad people and everything. So it's like it's very easy to get caught up in this stuff. She doesn't strike me as a very bright woman. I don't mean to. She just doesn't. And
I
thought
I dropped. You guys dropped. Sorry.
And then Salem, Massachusetts. I always thought that was weird. This is a place where they murdered. They murdered these innocent people, and then everyone kind of thinks it's kind of cutesy and fun and all this stuff. And yet, like Salem, Massachusetts, is like this monument to like intolerance and everything that's wrong with the world, and yet everyone thinks it's kind of cute. Oh, it's witches and stuff like this. And really, if you look what they did to those people at Salem, they killed them by either hanging them or putting gigantic rocks on top of them. And why did they do it? Only because they were different.
I have nothing against Katy Perry. I think she looks quite lost too. I can tell in her eyes. I usually can tell in somebody's eyes. I know I went through trauma as a child, and sometimes I get that look. So I'm very, very protective, if people have been harmed, because I went through it myself. But interestingly enough, Katy Perry does have a nice little clip where she says, I sold my soul to the devil, and that they changed everything about her to market her, that she was not getting anywhere just putting out her own stuff, that she changed everything so that she could become famous. And I also was looking at Lana Del Rey, if that's how you pronounce her name. I think her voice is beautiful. I find it very, very beautiful, and I think she's naturally talented. But if they restructured her whole image, they did all this plastic surgery on her and restructured her whole image. And it's really sad, because I feel like there's a bit of a loss of creativity. And to me, creativity and being expressive is part of what I call God, or God consciousness, or the divine.
Yeah, I agree with that. What you say about the eyes is interesting, because I'm just like that as well. I look at these people who are like big stars, and like you're right, Britney Spears, they all have this look in their eyes, and it's almost like, if you look, years ago I saw a photograph of all these Romanian orphans who were in these like gigantic, horrible, like communist orphanages. And they had photographs of the kids, and they all had the same kind of eyes that Britney Spears has. There's something. It's the weirdest thing. It's almost like they're gone somewhere else. You know, I don't mean in a bad way, but it's almost like they have left this reality and gone into an alternate reality. The eyes are not dead. They're not dead eyes. They're very much they're often very full of life, but it's almost like they're staring at a different reality than the reality that they're in. Do you know what I mean?
Could this also
Yes, and
be
they're
like
pain. They look in pain.
Thomas? I wanted to ask you about this. May lead on to things like entities and demons, because I've seen a lot of music videos where people say that the magician is possessed by a demon, or they've signed their soul to the devil, and now they allow demons and entities to take over when they're singing and stuff like that. Could it be linked to that?
Yeah, well, that's not. If you go back to classical music, you go back to back to like the troubadours and stuff like this. There's always this idea that you invoke the daemon or you invoke the devil, and this is just words. Let's not get caught up on semantics. These are just words, but the idea that you incorporate another personality into you that takes you into the artistic mode is a very common idea. Like even in like operas, in the Wagner operas, the way those operas were staged and the way they were lit and the way the characters were introduced with their own theme songs and stuff like this, they were expected by Wagner to assume the individual they were performing. And if you look at these people, they don't only just act or play out the part. They literally allow an entity to come into them, or a spirit or soul to come into them. And this is powerful stuff. This goes right back to the Greek mystery plays. The idea that you stand on the stage, or you stand in front of an audience, and you basically open yourself up. And they often use that term. I open myself up, and then the muse, the word they use in the Greek term, the muse enters upon you, and when the muse enters upon you, you are like almost like a ventriloquist dummy. And I see that a lot with these like big time pop singers. They're not in there. Something else jumps in there in the moment.
Yeah, I think like Beyonce says, like
we're on the same page, Josh.
Sassafras. Sorry, say that again.
We're on the same page. I was thinking about Beyonce. She's very blunt about saying that. I think Lady Gaga is too.
Lady Gaga's got an altar as well. Beyonce says she's got this altar called Sasha Fierce, and Lady Gaga's got another altar that she goes into when she's on stage, and then she just sort of like takes over. This altar takes over on stage.
And it feeds, from what I know, and because I'm very good at sense and energy, it feeds on all the energy that's being directed towards it, thus keeping the person famous so it can continuously use them to feed off of that energy. So they're given the fame, the money, and whatever else, as long as they continuously let these entities go into them to feed.
Well, that's beautifully put, Sarah, because I was just going to say that, the artist, the performer, if they evoke or invoke or they take possession of this thing inside themselves during the performance, if they're a true artist, they let it go when the performance ends. What happens is that the separation between the person and the performer blurs. And then you have a situation where the star or the whatever it is, this new personality completely takes over. And you see that people like Jim Morrison and the Doors, this idea of like this character, Mr. Mojo, took him over. You see it over and over again. I think what's her name, Beyonce, has this character called Sasha Fierce. It's like they're in an endless battle to maintain who they are and to keep that demarcation line between who they are, what they were when they grew up, or the person they were, and this entity, this walk-in, this daemon that kind of wants to take them over. It's a very powerful thing. It's something that people don't, think about enough. But the idea is like when an artist says, well, I sold my soul to the devil to become famous, what they're really saying is, I destroyed who I used to be.
It's very interesting because I notice celebrities when they start to lose fame, or even porn stars, and I think Max was researching this, they start to look very old very quickly and very bad. And I'm starting to think that the entity that's not getting the feed off the masses given energy just literally starts to feed off the person's soul. So essentially, if they stop being able to give it energy from people, it's literally feeding off of them. And I think that, is it Eminem, if that's how you pronounce his name, he says it. He says literally in his lyrics, he keeps summoning this, thing because it gives him fame and power, but at the same time, it's so destructive to him.
Well, that's interesting about the porn. Now, I've been thinking a lot about that lately. Now, just think if you're a porn star, right? And, you have, become a big famous porn star. And you have all these guys all over the world who are pouring their sexual energy into you. The automatic, by watching you online or whatever, the automatic assumption you would kind of think would be that, well, isn't she getting all this energy? The porn star, all this sexual, all the psychics, this energy, isn't that going into her? Isn't that building her up? And like you said, Sarah, they get old really fast. It's shockingly so. And they fall apart really fast. Their teeth fall out, their hair thins, their skin becomes atrocious at a very, very early age, like in early 30s and stuff like that. That's because the energy is not going to the woman who's actually the porn star, but the daemon behind her, the entity behind her. That's where it's going. This is the thing. They are using these, like as Crowley said, every man and woman is a star. They're using the star to spellbind and act as a magnetic focus, whether sexual, musical, whatever. And it's going through the energy that's been, the enormous amounts of sexual and psychic energy that's been directed at this young girl who's a porn star is passing through her and directly into the entity behind her. She's literally just a conduit.
Exactly, because if she was getting it, it would make her look younger for a very long period of time rather than aging so quickly after. If she was getting it, she would look young very, very long. I know because I do a lot of, putting chi energy into myself, whether it's through juicing or through meditative practices. So I know that I can contain that chi energy and be healthy and whatever else. But you think about the masses of energy that's being directed at these certain people, yet after they stop feeding these demons, they look so bad. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's very frightening actually to see how badly they fall apart. And it's people make a big deal about like ex-porn stars, they drug addicts and all this kind of thing. They feel guilty about it. But what really is the damage that's done is the fact that they're literally just a bridge into something else. And that what happens to a bridge that's always used, it wears down and it crumbles.
What about relationships? Now, it's funny because, people don't find this odd, but I find this very odd that people in Hollywood, per se Rihanna, and, considering that I do think that she's pretty. I think she was naturally pretty before, but they're very pretty girls and they're very nice looking men, as in 3D, but at the same time they can't hold a relationship. It's like they're not allowed to access their heart and have a love and relationship. It's as if the heart is blocked off since they've done that to themselves.
It's a weird one. I used to have a girlfriend years ago who was quite a well-known TV star in America, and it was like a wall was put up. I can't explain it. Like a wall or
around the heart.
A good person emptied out. It's the strangest thing. It doesn't matter if they're decent human beings, and a lot of them are. There's something, they're the biggest disaster areas when it comes to a stable relationship, because I think, Sarah, and they don't have a stable relationship with themselves. because they're literally, they exist to keep the image alive. You understand? Like the image or the persona alive. So they don't have a true relationship with the authentic self. Now, if you don't have a relationship with yourself, how can you have a relationship with anyone else?
There's a very interesting scripture in the Bible about the image of the beast, which is quite interesting. It reminds me of what you're saying right now. I also think that for them, emotions, compassion, or anything that is heartfelt, they're blocked off. The entity says, no, you can't have any of these things because, well, you get fame and whatever else, and of course there'd be no self-love whatsoever because of that.
In the Irish mythological tradition, there's an entity called the Leannan She. And what the Leannan She does is she's a beautiful muse of a poet or an artist. She comes into the poet's life and allows him to write his greatest work. Or she appears in the painter's life and she becomes the muse, and he paints her all these beautiful images of her naked and all these gorgeous images. But what she does is, as he's doing it, she's draining his life energy as he exists. And so what the Leannan She fairy or entity does is it guarantees the artist immortality, but a short life. And I see that so much over and over again. I think it's a beautiful and powerful archetype and analogy, that the idea is that they're given all these gifts, fame, fortune, love from all over the world, but it's for a short time. And then they wither away very quickly. The star burns out like a supernova. It burns quickly. And I think that's what really goes on here. It's like they're given a contract, and the contract specifically, I'm talking about on the energetic, psychic level, spiritual level, whatever you want to call it, the contract has a limited time frame. And that's why I think they can't work as people. It is amazing to me how, someone, let's say someone is I used to think what's her name was really beautiful, Angelina Jolie. Like, I thought she was stunning, years ago, back like 10, 15 years ago. And here she is bouncing from one broken relationship to the next. And I remember reading an interview in Vanity Fair about 10 years ago, where she said, God help any man who comes into a relationship with me, because as soon as he falls in love with me, I try to destroy it. And I think that's a lot of that kind of thing is that's what that is built into that.
I agree with you. I think she's such a strong force, and hopefully she can somehow go ahead and overcome that, because I don't think she's a bad person. I think that she's a very wild soul and quite beautiful soul from what I used to dream about. But it's very interesting, because when I was around some of these elite families, I noticed how harsh they are to each other. Whether it's Christmas or birthday, they won't even give presents if they give a card, and they're all very competitive with each other, even within the family. There's no love there. And for me, who's somebody who is I like connecting, I care about others, that really freaked me out.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's but do they even know what love is? Do they even understand? I suppose when you get that level of wealth and power, simple gestures don't matter anymore. Like the simple gesture of like opening a door for someone, or pulling a chair out when they're sitting down at a table, or tucking their coat over their shoulders when they're cold. The little things that show that you really love someone. The little small things, like the tiny things, like if they're at the dinner table, you give them the salt before they ask for it. These are the real gestures of love. The small little things, not the grandiose validations of it. And if you look how they live when they get married, their weddings are sensationally enormous. They make big deals of them. They're in Hello magazine. But yeah, I wonder at the same time, well, you just told me that's true, that at the small micro level, at the macrocosm of affection, where real love is portrayed and demonstrated, they don't have it. It's as simple as that.
Are most like celebrity marriages basically sort of a business relationship rather than, obviously if two celebrities, big celebrities like Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie get married, it sort of progresses their career.
Yeah, I guess so. I was talking to this. I remember years ago having a discussion with a friend of mine who was a fashion designer, and he was starting to make a lot of money and doing really well. And I was saying to him, "Oh, you know, you can." I was joking around him, and I was saying, "Oh, you can marry any supermodel you want now." And he was saying things like, you know, I'm thinking of like moving to like some island off the coast of Africa and finding a girl who doesn't know who I am. And he said to me, that's because the only way you'll ever find someone who truly loves you for who you are and not for what you are. And I think that's, yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that. When you're so famous and everyone in the world knows who you are, you're going to find it very hard to find true love. So you will find a true business relationship.
Mm. I wanted to also ask you, I find it very interesting, things like magicians like Dynamo and David Blaine and things like that. They seem to use some kind of, you know, again, entities or whatever. I mean, I think Dynamo explained when he was younger, he went into the forest for 3 or 4 days, and when he came back, he said to his friend that he was going to become famous and he's going to have all this power and wealth and everything. And within a few years, that exact thing happened. And a lot of the tricks that they do, you know, people are like, they're in awe when they watch them. They're almost like under a spell when they, you know, when they see Dynamo perform. Is that also related to this whole, you know, spells, magic, black magic kind of thing?
Yeah, that's a common story about going into the forest and coming back saying you were going to be a superstar or famous. Not just him, Dynamo, but also lots of composers, artists, lots of famous people through history have gone, you know, at a low point in their life often into the forest, whatever, and entered into the grove and came back and said they were politicians as well. There's a famous case of Albert Speer, who was Hitler's armaments minister, and he went into the forest after hearing Hitler speak. And before he went to see Hitler, he thought Hitler was a complete idiot. And he went to hear him speak, and he went into the forest. He wandered around in the forest, and when he came back out, he decided that like Hitler was the only hope for the world, and devoted his life to him. This is a weird thing. This happens all the time. Yeah, your man Dynamo is definitely using real occult, and so is David Blaine. And I'm not surprised. I think Harry Houdini did. I think half the reason people, you know, magicians like Harry Houdini, and there was a famous British magician called Maskelyne, that they used to debunk the whole thing. Oh, it's all trickery. It's not real. And they would go about debunking things. That was a deflection from the fact that they were really doing it. And I think a lot of that goes on. Prior to the 1960s, say, they used to actually pretend that they you know, we're not doing magic, we're debunking it. And I think Penn and Teller were doing that as well. And I think a lot of that was this idea of deflecting the fact that they were really doing it.
Yeah, a lot of like celebrities also, when they do get famous, someone quite close to them normally dies, don't they? Or something happens.
Politicians. That's another one. They seem to have children die when they get to be like big shot politicians. It's very strange. I don't understand that, but it's weird. It's almost like that's part of the price.
Yeah, it's sort of like the price you have to pay for fame and fortune is that you have to give up, you know, your firstborn child or something like that, or, you know, it's a price you pay when you make a deal with the devil.
Well, human sacrifice has never gone away, ever. I mean, people think that, like, you know, human sacrifice is a thing of the past. But what are wars? You know, what is that? What is a war? You know, human sacrifice has never gone away. It's just that we're told it's you know, a tragedy or something like that. But I mean, I often used to think that Marilyn Monroe's death was the sacrifice to make the Kennedys famous. You know, the last person she saw before she died was allegedly Robert Kennedy. You know, so you wonder about this kind of thing. Like, if they're, you know, so many of these celebrities who die young, are they deliberately being sacrificed, or are they jumping out of the system in order to deliver something for something else?
Mm-hmm. So is black magic also used in like the government? How is it used in the government? Like, how do politicians use black magic? Is it to get votes? What?
To make you afraid, to make you fearful, to make you terrified of losing your house, losing your job, losing your livelihood, losing your status in society, losing your humanity, using and
Okay, we're back on air. Sorry. A few technical problems. Sarah, you back again?
I'm back. Sorry about that. It seems to just have blocked me out of my whole account, so I just did a new one. Sorry about that.
All right, we're about to go to a commercial break in a minute or two. I think we are back on air. I don't know what happened there. The live show just dropped, and Sarah just dropped. Sorry, I've forgotten. I've lost my train of thought now. What were you talking about?
we're talking about politicians and the idea of
Oh, yeah.
politicians using mind control in a kind of a black magic sense. Yeah, absolutely. They tell you what to believe. They tell you what your identity is and what your assumptions are, and then you follow what they do. It's as simple as that.
When we get back from break, I'll have to talk to you about that, because I was in New York and I was speaking to some of the people that, had worked with politicians or had even were close to them, and they were talking about that. It was quite incredible what they were saying.
Oh, that's good timing. Okay, we're just about to go to commercial break, so we'll be back in a few minutes.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message. The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
And welcome back to The Divine Truth on Revolution Radio. Before we continue with the show, just need to remind you that Revolution Radio is a listener-supported station. We do rely on your donations to keep us on air. So please do go to freedomslips.com and go to the Support Us section, where you can make a donation or you can buy one of our seed packs starting at only $60. All of our seed packs contain non-GMO, non-hybrid heirloom seeds, and you can buy seed packs starting from $60 up to $200. You can join our monthly support club, where you can make a monthly donation starting at only $10, or you can make a one-off donation. So please do go to our website, freedomslips.com, to the Support Us section to make a donation to keep us on air. And I would also like to remind you about my conference, which I'm holding on July the 15th in Aldermaston, awakon.com, where my co-host Sarah Adams will be speaking, and our guest tonight, Thomas Sheridan, will also be speaking there, as well as Tony Topping, Maria Wheatley, Kieran Lee Perrin, and Ben Emlyn Jones. Again, the website for that is awakon.com. And now we return to the show. Is everyone still with us? Thomas, you there?
I am indeed.
And is Sarah still there?
I am here too. Yes.
Nyssa?
Hi there. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm here. Hi.
Nyssa, sorry, Sarah, did you want to ask something?
Oh, about politicians. I think we were on
Yeah.
that subject when we went to break.
Yeah. Did you want to ask something about that? I thought you said you wanted to get into that about something.
About how politicians use black magic or
black
magic.
magic.
Yes.
Yeah, you were
Yes.
saying, Sarah, something you saw in America.
Yes. So my theory about this is I've noticed that a lot of politicians and even, and I've heard that even I will say certain world leaders, they get with a lot of girls, younger girls, or even, some of them they hide behind closed doors and they are not straight. And I do think that what they're doing is they're raping these people of their energy. And that's why they sleep around a lot, even in Hollywood. They're raping these people of that life force so then they can use that life force through magic.
Absolutely, 100%. Look at all these, how old these guys, they last forever. It doesn't matter if they're boys or young girls. They seem to have this endless progression towards younger and younger. Do you ever notice that? It's almost like the older they get, the younger they're attracted to. It's like the reverse of what they are. And it's not, they're vampires. This is this is the classic thing. It's like, Countess Bathroy bathing in the blood of the Hungarian virgins back in the 1500s. It's the same thing. You don't actually have to kill a person to harvest their life energy. You can do it sexually. You can do it emotionally. You can do it psychologically. There's lots of ways. You don't actually have to physically kill them. And this is one of the things that they don't, that people misunderstand, that you can actually sacrifice a human being without actually taking their physical and mortal life from them. You can harvest their life energy force through these, as you said, these sexual violations.
This is a very interesting subject for me because I've noticed that this happens a lot. And you think about it. Think about a person who has no energy within them that's self-sustaining. They target people who have a lot of energy. I know because I've experienced it myself. I get targeted by people like this a lot. And I'm very protective of myself. But I've noticed, a lot of very wealthy men, they go after girls who have a lot of energy or very, very young girls. And it's very interesting of how they're taking all of that energy and they're using it not only to keep themselves looking okay. And you're right, they look okay very, very when they're very old, and it's absolutely incredible. Some of them have just amazing skin, stuff like that, and it's not because they're healthy or anything like that. It's because they're stealing the life force of others. Now this comes to something deeper, and I was thinking about this morning. Is it possible? And for me, at least from what I've seen, and I'm going to ask you this question: is it possible to literally drain somebody's total life force so that after they're empty and then their body's
Sarah.
just basic? Go
Sarah,
ahead.
we've just lost Thomas, I think. I think he's just gone off air. Oh, just a minute.
I'm pretty sure it's because we're talking about very deep and intense stuff right now, because I got my whole account said it was deleted.
Wow.
It said I had no Skype account. I had just had to create a new one.
Just one sec. He's gone off. He's online, but he's disconnected. Just a minute. Carry on talking, Sarah.
So, okay, Nyssa, let's go ahead and talk about this one until he gets back, okay. And I will pose this question. For me, at least, I have noticed that certain people, their souls could be removed from them, and then just their body's still alive, but it's not the person's soul in there. It's literally ran by entities.
Yeah, well, you have this whole thing, don't you, of new laws have just been passed for emotional abuse in like relationships, where a partner, they don't have to physically lay a finger on you, but they can completely drain you because they occupy your psyche 24/7 if they're a vampire. So you don't have any energy left for yourself. And it's only recently been recognised in court that you can actually get help for that. So yeah, it does happen.
That's incredibly amazing that the UK has evolved to that point. Here in the United States, it will be a long time, and I hope it won't, but it seems it'll be a long time before they realize that energy is the biggest commodity in the universe. It's the biggest commodity in the world. People think it's money, or they think it's fame, or this. It's energy.
Yeah, someone said to me the other day that reincarnation is the mechanics of the universe, which basically reincarnation is just souls, isn't it? It's just the mechanics of souls. Yeah, but it's just exchanging energy with souls all the time is what we're doing. But people don't see that. They get stuck on the material. Oh, I think he's back. Is he back?
I'm back. Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Oh,
Welcome
brilliant.
back.
Okay.
Yeah, we're having a few
Well,
technical problems
yeah.
tonight. I'm not too sure. I mean, maybe it was the subject we were talking about. Who knows?
Maybe we're using up all the energy.
I'll repose my question again, Thomas. I was saying that, do you think it's possible for a person's soul energy or life force to be drained enough that the body just becomes vacant and then entities can just live within the body?
Absolutely, 100%. I've seen it. I've seen it firsthand. With friends of mine. Yeah, it's like, you know what they call battered wife syndrome. You don't actually have to physically punch someone to replace them with something else. You can do it in all kinds of ways. Sexual deprivation, mind games, gaslighting, playing with their heads. Yeah, it can be done in lots of ways, and it's yeah, and you know, if so, like we've all been in relationships that were bad and didn't work out, and you remember like the point when the relationship fell apart, you felt like for a little while, who am I? You know, where am I? Your self, this is normal. Your sense of self is gone. Now multiply that by 1,000,000 and imagine how that would feel. So you're sort of like being used by these powerful individuals. You're being shown the world. You're being given everything you want, and then one day it's gone. It's been taken away, and you're left there staring into the abyss of your own oblivion. Who am I? What am I? And if you cannot find yourself, if you cannot locate who you are in space time, in your consciousness, whatever, well, something else will replace you. Something else will jump in there as you're almost like, you know, your pathological twin. And that's a very frightening idea. And that's what happens.
Soul
That's
scalping. It's soul scalping in a way.
That's a very good way of putting it. Yeah. You have been cored like an apple, and then something else filled the core.
So working with homeless, and that's one of the passions of mine. I enjoy working with the homeless, and I noticed this. It seems like they have been drained of all their life force, and then the government just wants them to die off and get rid of them. They're not useful anymore. They have no life force. They were like cattle that was used for life force.
Yeah, it's I've seen that. There's a coldness almost about them. Even if you're trying to help them, they're kind of hostile. It's yeah, that's what it is. What they do is they're creating living ghosts. Living ghosts are no problem to anybody, and they want all of society being a living ghost. This is why they're obsessed with things like transhumanism and all this kind of stuff. They want to make all of us, as many of us as possible, walking ghosts. That we don't know we're actually alive, we're actually here, that we actually feel this kind of eternal, beautiful life force within us. They want us all like meat golems, like robots, puppets, you know, automatons. You know, the automatons. You ever see those old-fashioned, like 200-year-old automatons that wind up? Have you ever noticed that? Do you ever look at those automatons from like the Edwardian or Georgian era, the way they move? If you look at the way their eyes are painted and the way their facial expressions are, they look exactly like what you were saying Britney Spears looks like.
Because then nobody will rebel against them, and they're perfect to have as slaves. You know, I'm saying this about the homeless because I was working with my group, and you know, they're over under the bridge here in Dallas, and I just entered and I was doing some film, and I just wanted people to see how it's just quite sad, you know, what they're going through. And the one lady that sort of guarded, you know, the main entrance, she's a little homeless lady, and she came up to me, walks up to me, and she started to talk to me, and she goes, are you good? And I said, yeah, yes, I'm good. I'm here to try to help out. And she said, good, because we don't want that pastor to come. And I said, what do you mean? And she goes, they don't know, but they're using us. Apparently some very well-known pastor here. She was like, they're using us for our life force energy because they're dark magicians. And I looked at her and I was like, you're not kidding about this. And she's like, no, I sit and pray because the reason they're coming over here and saying they're helping us, it's not the reason it's not because they want to help. It's because they want to steal our energy, our life force, and use us as batteries. And I was just absolutely shocked by that. And then it made sense because a couple of years back, I tried to help out this said, religious group here that supposedly helps the homeless. And when I tried to go help, and they work with some well-known people here in Dallas, I was shocked at how cold these people were, despite the fact that they were, quote, religious, and how they were. And they're very well-off people. So when she said that I sort of put two and two together from years ago and realized, yeah, they were taking their energy, whatever energy they have.
And
she was aware of that.
And let's extrapolate that further. What's the ultimate homeless person? A refugee. And the elites are obsessed with the refugees. They move them. They move them around the world. They change them from country to country, and they're just using these people to suck the life out of them. That's all they are.
I'm so angry about what they're doing to children. All those children starving in Africa and third world countries, they're being used. They're literally little energy batteries. When they go through pain, this is what I believe. When a person goes through pain, mentally and physically, they let out energy. And so they're feeding fests for many negative entities. And I believe that they're being sacrificed, literally being given as food and energetic food to certain beings by the elite, because we have more than enough. We've sent more than enough money all these years to help out, yet we have the biggest humanitarian crisis going on right now. There's something that just doesn't add up. There's literally hundreds of billions of dollars that went to aid, yet we still have the biggest humanitarian crisis. It's ridiculous.
Well, look at all the Catholic Church and all the other Christian groups that raised vast amounts of money for African relief. Where'd that money go? It went back into the Vatican. It didn't go where there's two aspects to money. There's money itself and there's currency, the flowing of, the affluence, that there's an energetic force created by the movement of currency. So if I ask you to give me $10 and I will pass that $10 on to Taj and then to Nyssa, what happens is there's an actual magical power in that money passing through me. You understand? Mm-hmm. It's the currency, affluence, affluere, to flow. And that's moving through me. Now that's why you have like Bob Geldof, Live Aid and things like that. Give me your effing money on the TV. He literally meant that. Give me, Bob Geldof, your effing money, because the money that passed through the Live Aid operation would furnish his fame through this energetic parasitic harvesting.
That is a big thing here in the United States. Every pastor on TV says you will be blessed if you give me money, and you will get a ticket. Literally, there are a good few who will say that if you give money, it's literally like your ticket to heaven.
Yep, you will be blessed. You will be blessed. That's really what that's saying there. That you will be blessed. The money means nothing. The money is a promissory note of your life energy, and it doesn't matter how much cash these pastors have in the bank. It's the flow of that money. It's the movement of that money. It's like you put a power station on a river and a turbine or a mill on a river. It's not the water in the river that makes the mill powerful. It's the motion of the water through the mill, through the turbine, that generates the power, generates the electricity. Money works exactly the same way. That's why we have the middlemen, and that's what charity is all about in these African charities. It doesn't matter if that money vanishes into oblivion. The one in the middle who's having the power moving through them is the one who harvests the energy.
That's absolutely brilliant. I had a vision a couple of years ago where and there was some money on the table, and the face where there's the face on the money, at least here in the United States, there's the face, and I saw it change, and it, instead of being like, the face of a president, it was faces of different people on each piece of money, and I thought, it's their energy. That's literally how they're doing that. That's how they're getting a lot of energy. It's literally money is a bit of an energy psyops.
Well, there was a very strange thing happened after 9/11, about 2003, 2004, and this is verifiable, that US dollar banknotes were released with the face of George Bush II on them, W, on the bills. They were in circulation for a short time. They were almost like talismans to guarantee his survival following post 9/11. And there are videos online. I don't know if they're still up there. I remember watching them years ago, and people in America were saying, where are these dollar bills suddenly appearing that have George Bush's face superimposed on them instead of George Washington, whoever is on the dollar bill? This is the kind of the sigil, the talisman, the spellbinding, the idea that these dollar bills were passing with what's his name face on them, W's face on them, was enough to ensure his survival following 9/11. There's a lot of this nonsense goes on that we don't notice. That, if people were to actually go into a bank, if you worked in a bank and you were dealing with large amounts of notes, you would actually find that some of them are quite different. Like the euro, especially the €1 and the €2 coins, these weird anomalies show up every so often with all these kind of strange symbols on them. And then these coins suddenly go out of circulation. There's a lot of that kind of nonsense goes on under our nose, and it's the same kind of thing. The currency, the affluence, the affluere, they're tapping into the flow of the financial energy and not the sum total or the end of it. And that's where the real power lies, in dipping your toes in the flowing river, not owning the river.
It's very interesting because in Egyptian mythology, for me, a lot of the Egyptian stuff is very real. That would be considered the river of life, or the real Nile is the energy river, and it's very adamant at saying those who use that and who harvest that and use it for bad purposes in the end will be annihilated.
Yep. That's why they made a big deal out of the god Sobek, the crocodile guy, the Egyptian god with the crocodile head. He was the compassionate guardian of the Nile, even though he looks like in the Middle Kingdom of Egypt, Sobek became the primary deity because he became almost like the guardian of the river. And the crocodile has this thing where it protects its young in the jaws of its mouth, even though it's ferocious and it's stealthy under the water. And that's what all that came from. The Egyptians actually probably saved their society and their civilization by cultivating the Sobek archetype as the crocodile god who lived in the Nile, who kept order rather than exploitation.
Okay, we've talked a lot about black magic, but I wanted to get into things like, how do we protect ourselves from all this, from the black magic that we're getting from the music industry, from the government, from the entertainment industry. I mean, do we use like white magic against it? I mean, how do we stop, the influence of the black magic?
Well, for starters, we start looking at what they do, and instead of saying they're doing satanic symbols and being ignorant about it and making ourselves more prone to being damaged by it, maybe it's time to start learning from it. Now, there was a lot of this nonsense over the recent years, particularly from sort of the Christian end of the alternative scene, of the one eye, the holding the one eye. Oh, they're doing the symbol of the Illuminati, the one eye. Well, that's actually a way they protect themselves. It's called apoptropathic magic, and it goes back it's a very ancient thing of deflecting the evil eye. And it's something that we, the rest of us are really not doing, and we should be doing. This idea of there's something about the one eye that actually protects you from harm. And instead of going, oh, that's all Illuminati and that's all scary, and it's I must run in fear of this. This is the reason why they're surviving and we're not, is because they're actually protecting themselves from us. Apocryopathic magic, the idea of the one eye exposed, deflects the evil eye. It actually stops you from having your energy harvested. And that's why all these celebrities, you think imagine you're being a celebrity now, right? And you're incredibly famous. There's lots of people over the world that are going to hate your guts for one reason or another. Show me one famous celebrity that doesn't have a photograph of them with one eye covered. That's because they're using that to deflect the evil eye, jealousy, envy, and energy harvesting through hate, psychic attacks. That's one of the things that people have to start waking up to fast, that this stuff works for them. And instead of saying, oh, it's evil or it's satanic, we should start thinking start using that for ourselves. That's one of the things alone.
That's brilliant. It's right there. Sorry. That's brilliant right there. When I lived in New York, I was around a lot of Kabbalists, and I was having some negative things happen to me, and they gave me a string of evil eye bracelets, and I wear them. And interestingly enough, every time I go out, I put on my bracelet. And you know what? After the third time I lost the bracelet, I said to them, I lost 3 of these bracelets already. And they said, that's very, very good. That means it absorbed all of the negative energy
and it was cast
being thrown at you.
Yep, and it was thrown away, and it served its purpose. We have this, this is one of the great tragedies of the alternative scene, is that it kind of evolved from like the 1990s on, from American Bible Belt Christianity, that saw everything as satanic, everything as evil. The reality is these are ancient forms of magic that our ancestors used going back to the dawn of time to protect them from just the kind of crap that we're talking about here tonight. And it worked for them. And it's like someone comes up, someone is coming, says to you, let's have a duel, let's have a fight. And they put 2 knives on the table, and they pick up a knife and they say, I'm choosing, this is my weapon. Do you say, oh, I don't pick up the other knife because it's evil? No, you pick up the other knife to defend yourself. And that's why you use the whole evil eye, the idea of protecting yourself from it. Sarah, can I ask you, was the bracelet actually, how was it made? Was it made from was it a knotted cord?
It was made from the thread, the red thread. It was it was the real ones that they brought from, I think they get it from somewhere over there. It's not from in the United States, but it really helped me. And I saw how that worked very much. And you're right, they're deeming everything as evil. Now it's the flower of life is evil, yoga is evil. It's evil if you juice, and everything now is being deemed as evil. It's very, very crazy how that's happening. Things that are beneficial to us, that can help us with our health or even stuff like that, everything is being deemed as evil. But then again, religion, the word religion is, for me, decoding the word religion is rely on jinn. And we all know what jinn are.
Yep. Absolutely. And it's like, look, let's be honest here, okay? I get a lot of flack for being a direct kind of honest person. I don't lie to people. I tell you the truth. You're at war here. We're at war, okay? And that's my attitude. My attitude is that all this peace, love, and light, all this like holding a Bible up, this won't protect you, because what they do is, and it's as simple as this, they give you the stuff that doesn't work. You understand? They give you the stuff that won't work because that makes you a victim. But if you start looking at their stuff and you say to yourself, how did they attack us? What are the rules of engagement? What are the methodologies that they have to mind control us? And you say to yourself, well, why don't I use that? And that's what the Chinese do. And we're lambs to the slaughter in the West, because we're told that the things that can actually protect us against them are evil and we shouldn't use them.
Nyssa, did you want to ask something?
I was just going to basically point out, I think it's been covered, but everything's been inverted so that we are doing it to ourselves. We are basically blaming these, say like the Illuminati or something's doing it to us. Actually, we're doing their job for them, if that's what they were even doing, but we're doing it to ourselves and projecting it onto, do you see what I mean? We're doing their job for them.
Perfectly. That you nailed it perfectly right there. Perfectly. It's like, they're like, they don't have to build a fence around us if you build it in your own mind. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, exactly. And what I like to do is preload. You have to remember that your consciousness is sacred to yourself, and you have to monitor your thoughts, because your thoughts become things. Because imagination is, I am magician. You are a magician. You will pull things from the morphogenic field and make them physical, which a lot of these entities, they can't do. So they have to use us as a vehicle, because they can't do it themselves, because they're either not physical enough, or they're physical but their soul's decrepit, so they have to use us. But we're tricked into thinking that we're born in sin, we're useless, we're just going to live a pointless life and die. So we don't realize how gifted we are just to be able to use to have an imagination, because they don't really have one, they use ours. So you have to preload your imagination with affirmations. I am, whatever it is you want to be. Say you are that already. Just say that you are that already. Just preload it. But what really scared me is the fact that I was thinking the other day, if I was relying on outside sources for this affirmations, I was thinking there's absolutely no soap operas on television that show me anything positive. It's all arguments, drama, negative things. Yeah. Obviously the news is a no-go, and everyone's already programmed for like negative, terrible things. It's all inverted, it's all backwards.
And the fear drains your energy and makes you weak, because it's terribly debilitating to actually say, like, I'm trying to get myself back to normal, how can I defend myself? Because I feel like this sense of pressure. You're absolutely right, Nyssa. It's so important. Look, here's the ultimate one. There's no saviors. The one you have been looking for is yourself. That's it.
I'm so glad you said that. Yeah, exactly.
And they want us to always look to a salvation kind of idea, that something will come from the sky, from the earth, from the world, from magic to save us. The reality is that you're the one you're looking for. And this is the greatest secret of all, that like within all of us is not just...
I at the top of the pyramid is yours. You are this. You are you. It's you. And the second that you realise that I'll probably get in trouble for saying that now. But the second you realise that, everything will change. And these people in Hollywood, the magical wood that makes the wands, they know this already. That's why they're living the lives that they want, to an extent. Obviously, they're controlled and stuff, but they understand how that all works. It's just us. We've been tricked into this illusion, this Maya,
this miasma.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
You, me, Sarah, Taj, we are stars. We are the stars. We're as much stars as any Hollywood star or any elite. Together, we can do something that they can't do. We can form a constellation. We can actually do these things because we're not driven by the same idea that like we're held up as kind of like the individual star. All of us are stars, but if you join together as a constellation, you can actually you have a power and a force.
Yes.
It cannot. Our ancestors have looked to the skies. The same constellations have always been there. This is the idea of forming this idea of it is this beautiful, this separate but symbiotic a force of energy is what will destroy them. That's why they make you nihilistic, narcissistic, self-absorbed, self-pitying, self-hating, self-doubting, because they don't want you to see that at the end of the day, there's no difference. There was a great French philosopher called Montaigne, and he wrote this beautiful thing in the 15th century. He says, even the greatest and mightiest king has to get off his throne to go to the toilet. And that was like one of the most, and that's it. If you can just grasp that, you've got everything.
You have to think, though, that they don't want you. They want you to think that you're at their mercy, you're going to go to hell, or you can't change things. They don't ever want you thinking that you're an I am, that you have the abilities to be an I am, which is to be godlike in a way. Because you think about even Jesus. I made this joke the other day. I said, Jesus said, you will do greater things than I. And apparently Jesus was telling the waters to be calm, and was healing and doing all this stuff. And he said that he was the Son of God. He was a literal God. But he said, people do greater than this. I don't see any religious people doing greater works than Jesus. In fact, I see nothing of that going on. What I do see is that people who have realized they have that power within them, they're doing a lot of change. They do not want you to know that you have that power within yourself.
Yeah, the greatest heroes on this planet are ones you'll never know their name. You'll never know their name. They're people who have disabled children. They go through their lives taking care of others. You'll never know their names, but they're the brightest stars in the sky. And this is the reverse spell they put upon us, that you're judged by your fame rather than your actual, consciousness engagement with others in terms of actually helping them. The greatest human beings on this earth will never know their names, and that's the way it's supposed to be.
Thomas, I wanted to ask you about, this also goes into the alternative community where people, they do start to wake up to what's going on, and they go to what you might call spiritual leaders who say, I can help you with this, I can help you heal, I can do this, I can do that. And what do you think about, that sort of that thing that's happening right now, and always has been happening, I guess, in the alternative community? Do you think it's a good idea for people to seek out spiritual healers?
No, it's no. And I get like loads of emails. Thomas, help me with this. Thomas, help me with that. My attitude is, look, I planted a seed. You tend your own garden. That's the end of it.
Go ahead.
At the end of it, sorry, sir. At the end of the day, the only one who can save your own ass is yourself. And I'm just a regular fella. Other people are just regular people. We all have our own lives to live. Now, we can all, inspire people or give them an idea, put a seed in their own garden. But at the end of the day, your garden is your own, and you have to tend to it. And only you can make it fruitful. And that's the end of it. Now, that's it. And I think it makes me sad that people say, tell us what to think next and all this. That a lot of that comes from our education system, because we look to the teacher at the end of the class and he said, teacher, is this the right answer? Is this the wrong answer? And that's what's programmed us in to be like this. And we see it in politics. Everyone thinks that Jeremy Corbyn is like the new god, or whatever, Trump or anyone. The end of the day is, it's only yourself that can do it. And it's painful, it's difficult, it's annoying, it's irritating, it causes heartbreak, you lose relationships, people you're in love with will leave you. This happens, but it's a worthy and a noble journey to actually take that on your own, because it's the only one that matters.
I understand, because I get a lot like that come to me, and I'm very good at instructing with diet, detoxing, and sort of protecting yourself energetically. But it's just insane of how people tell me, well, they want me to instruct everything, and I try to remind them, I can tell you how to become healthier. I can tell you how to protect yourself energetically, but you, in the end, you're the only one who can help yourselves out. And I think so many people, they're so scared, or they've been programmed a bit to be lazy about that, and they don't even understand that they're divine. The fact that they have their soul essence, and the fact that they can build that up, that they're divine, and in the end, it's them that can save themselves. And I'm very, very adamant about telling people this over and over again.
And it's not their fault. It's just the way society is set up to make you feel as useless as possible.
they're like scared little children in a way. They don't,
Yeah.
you know, they figured out something's wrong with with the politics, something's wrong in the world, and they're just scared, so they come to us in the masses, you know. It's quite incredible at how many people, just simple things, they don't even know how to eat, you know. Talk about McDonald's, they don't even know how to eat the right food for them, for their health. I've had people who want me to go to grocery stores to show them how to shop, because they don't even know how that shopping for fruits and vegetables is better than going to you know, fast food.
That's very sad, but yeah, that's we've also been stripped of our cultures as well. This idea, they've brought us this kind of monoculture thing, like all our grandparents all knew about the food and nutrition. You know, it's only in the last 50 years or so that they've actually stripped all that stuff away and replaced it with all this crap. Yeah, you know, it's like it's amazing that sometimes I wake up in the morning and think it's amazing we've survived as a species at all, that some of us can still think for ourselves. This is what we're up against. And it's, you know, you think, okay, like everyone is like me, they can, but then, like you said, Sarah, you meet people and they're lost. They're absolutely lost without a roadmap. Not just nutrition, but everything. Their direction in life, their spiritual development, even how they feel about themselves. They're utterly lost, and that's a damning indictment of the society. But it shows how horrible. We're back to like what I was saying. We were talking about earlier on, that they're making living ghosts of people.
And I know I've probably taken over this whole thing with you. I was so excited to talk to you. I'm sorry about that. You know, about energy rape, it's very interesting because I went through that when Max died. I literally got attacked on so many sides by entities and was drained so much of energy. I went to the hospital. You know, I saw the people around me. They got me to the ER because I was spitting up blood, and it took me some months to regain my energy and be okay after that. So I experienced that. And when I experienced that, that's when I experienced other entities trying to come into me when I was so drained, to take control of me. And that's all the research that I've done, you know, of figuring out, well, if a person's really drained to where they're totally drained, where they don't have any energy left, and I was able to keep some energy of mine and stay alive. And Taj knows this because, and Nyssa, you do too, because you guys have been with me throughout the whole thing. Then I started to realize how people can be totally drained of their energy, and entities can just live inside of them. Because when I was drained, I was getting attacks like that.
Well, Sarah, when that went down, I was watching your Facebook page very closely. Believe it or not, a lot more than I've actually admitted until this point. You were targeted by a specific entity called Coronzon 333, which is I saw it, and I knew when it went down and things were going on. I said, I better watch this girl's page because they're going to start crawling out of the abyss. And they did. I saw them. And
they did it. And it's very interesting because even some very well-known people in this area seem to have got possessed, and they then started to attack me. I knew that there were entities inside of them. I was very aware of the entity, the way they would talk. And the triggering points is always about the trauma I had as a child. I knew that there was no way this person would know how to trigger me unless there was an entity inside of them. And it's always on abuse you have had as a child, and to bring you down on every single level.
Well, you jumped offline for a while. I remember that you vanished for a bit, and that was a good idea. You dropped down below the radar, because if you're not on the table, you're not food. And that's always a good thing. I've always been a great proponent of the idea that when these things are feeding, whether they're psychopaths, whether they're entities or possessed individuals, you just vanish. You jump out. Yeah. You stop being food, and you hop out and you vanish for a while. And that's not just for anyone as a profile or is known. That's for everyone. Because we'll all be on the menu at some point. And
noticed you have.
Yeah.
You have Yes, once you've disappeared a few times.
Well, I'm literally battling demons from every day of my life. From the moment they get up, I can handle it a bit better because I'm older than you, and I've been around the block a few times, and I know pretty much now what I'm dealing with. I use humor a lot to disarm these creatures as well, and I find my sense of humor is like my shield of armor, and satire is very important for me. That's bardic magic. I'm Irish. That's what we are. We're bards, so we're bardic magic, and that works for me. I come from a long tradition of those types of people, and yes, and that works for me. But to say I take no crap either. As soon as someone starts showing any signs of infection, and that's the word I use for it, I immediately block them on Facebook. They're gone. They're disinfected. They're treated that way. They may only be going through a stage like that. They're like that, but at that moment, infection spreads. You have to immediately. You see them as spiritual pathogens, and you jump on it immediately. And I know that sounds kind of harsh at times, but I'm playing, and you'll be playing, and other people are playing. And Taj, you will, now you're organizing conferences. You're playing in a higher casino now, and the stakes are higher. And it's not the same as when we were all like ordinary fellas and girls. You've got to protect your ass no matter what. And also the people around you who are your friends, because if they don't attack, if they can't get you, and I'm sure you know this, Sarah, they will go for the people who you love, your friends, stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I've seen it. Me and Sarah have both seen that happen. So yeah.
Yeah, and they will say the most appalling things, the most disgusting accusations, all grounded in fallacy, all lies. But what you do is you just keep plugging on, because the demon is a liar, no matter if the demon is direct, like Quran's on 333, or the demon is infected someone else, usually a person who's a drug addict, someone who's a heavy pot user, an alcoholic, or someone who's psychologically unhinged. You immediately keep plugging away, because what the demon wants to do, it wants you to stop your trajectory going forward and continue to battle with them. Do you remember Danielle Liberté?
Yes.
Remember the crap that Danielle got when she came out in the early days? It was everywhere. They want you to shut you up and stop you. What you do is you keep plugging forward and you ignore the infection, because if you pay attention to the virus will overcome you. Very important stuff.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry. I was just going to quickly say, I try and I use my sense of humor, because that like raises my vibration really quickly, and I've got quite a dark sense of humor, which really comes in handy. But I always visualize, like when it happens, is like when the kids are like wearing a Halloween mask and it isn't Halloween, and they come in and they try and scare me. If I play along, if I play the game and I go, I'm scared, then they're all happy and they'll do it more. But if they come in and I'm just like ignore them, or I just look at them like,
Fuck
well,
you.
it's not Halloween,
Fuck off.
or just ignore them or whatever, then they go away. They're like in a huff, they're like upset, they're like, well, you're not scared, like, you know, the kids. And it's like, if you don't play the game, then it just kind of goes away, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like completely rupturing and distorting their agenda. Now these entities, they're not very bright. This is something you should remember. This is one of the great horrors they played on human beings, is this belief that we're garbage. Human beings are something out defective. We have to be fixed by a savior or an alien, or something has to come and fix us. And this is the jinns have done this. The reality is that there's nothing wrong with us. We're just damaged, but we're not imperfect or broken or needing saviors. This is the game they play, and they're not very bright. When you engage directly with them, when you bring them into manifestation, either as human beings, as psychopaths or whatever, or you bring them in as entities in rituals, you're struck by how stupid they are. They're one-trick ponies. All they can really do is insult you. All they can really do is mock you. They can find things wrong with you. They'll say, "Oh, you're too fat. You're too skinny. Oh, your hair's all messed up. Or you know, no one will ever love you. You've no friends. No one cares about you. You're a loser." They do this kind of thing. This is very common. The demon is a liar, and they want you to know this. Oh, you're a fool. Oh, your friends are only your friends because they're trying to shag you. Oh, your friends are only your friends because, you know, they're laughing at you. This kind of crap. This is a big part of it. This is the kind of Renfield kind of archetype. You know, Renfield was the guy who was the servant of Dracula. You know, this constant insult. You ignore it. You ignore it because even if it gets depraved, the truth always comes out in the end. But also, these entities give up very quickly, more quickly, when you don't engage. No contact ever again. Don't feed the machine.
Just like the kids would you just get fed up if you
think, so a lot of the time, I think they engage with you to get a reaction out of you. They want to piss you off, get you angry, you know, so they can feed off of you. It's the mistake is to engage with them in the first place a lot of the time.
Reaction is emotion, thus energy. That's why soap operas and everything. Even I'm starting to believe that a lot of these like shootings and stuff are set up to get all that energy. People get shocked and they let out all of this energy.
Yeah, take no shit, but be a decent, kind person and open to everyone when you first meet them. But as soon as they start acting like a dick, you know, talk to the hand bitch because the ass ain't listening. That kind of thing, you know. It's like, I'm not going there. I'm very, you know, people have to understand that your life energy is a mine. It's like a mine full of gold, and you've got to hold on to that because that will guarantee you, just like you were talking about the porn stars earlier on, that will guarantee you a longer, happier, more fulfilling life. There's all kinds of thieves, bandits, and robbers who are trying to steal your gold. They're trying to steal your power, and that's how they do it, by interrupting you. It's like you're going down a train track of life, and they're throwing rocks on the tracks. Just keep going forward, no matter what. Just keep moving ahead, because you will find that people like us don't spend their times naming names, picking on people, developing vendettas, but they do. The vendetta is the demon desperately trying to stay alive. Don't feed the vendetta, kill the demon. It's that simple.
I think you have to be quite good at identifying these, like certain people in the alternative community who are, I guess the only way I can say is compromised, being used. And I tend to think that I'm quite good at picking up on people's energies, and I know if someone has ulterior motives or whatever when they engage with me. And I know Sarah's quite good at that, Nyssa, and you're probably quite good as well. You've already said that you block people when you know there's something not quite right about them.
Yeah, passive aggressiveness is the one you look out for. That passive aggressive snide comment, because that's what that is it's a window to a vast repository of resentment and hatred towards you. You know, there's taking the piss, okay? You can always tell when someone's having a laugh, joking around and kidding, and means no harm in that. You always see that's quite identifiable. That's a healthy thing. It keeps us grounded. When a friend of you or someone you know personally says something like, it's not an insult, it's almost like a grounding thing. Having a laugh, taking the piss. But online, a passive-aggressive remark is from someone you don't know personally is a very, very feckin' telling thing to be watched out for, because passive-aggressiveness in that form is the calling card of something not right with that person. They're either harvesting extreme resentment towards you. They want something from you. They're looking to take something from you. But ultimately, they're seeing you in a negative light. Now, it's okay to be critical of someone. I have no problem with someone saying to me, Thomas Sheridan, your work is a load of crap. I don't agree with it. That's okay. But when they add a dehumanizing factor to it, that's when the warning flags go off. That's when you start paying attention. Because if you have a genuine, like if I have a genuine criticism with you guys, right? Well, any one of you, I will say, well, Tash, I don't really agree with that. It's not my thing. Well, Nessa, I'm not sure. You think it might be wrong. Sarah, yeah, okay, but it's not for me. But the ones you watch out for are say things like, oh, you're an idiot, or really? Or, oh, is that how you feel? This kind of carry on. Because that's not criticism. That's a window to a world of viciousness behind it.
Thomas, we're going to finish any minute now. Do you want to give out your contact information if anyone wants to get hold of you? Where do they find you?
ThomasSheridanArts.com. If you want to help me out, I have a book called The Druid Code. A lot of the magic stuff in that. It deals with a lot of that kind of thing. And I'll see you all in, what's the name of that city that we're having the conference in?
Aldermaston, Awakon.
Okay, I'll see everybody there. And thanks very much for having me on.
Are you doing another?
Tom.
Are you doing another conference as well?
I'm going all over the world, 2 tours of America, Norway, everywhere. I'm all over the place this year.
Okay, that's the end of the show, guys. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Nyssa. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
And thank you, Thomas.
Thank you, Nyssa.
Good night, everybody. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Good night, everyone.